Taiwan, I'm Reece with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Firefighters, police and other civil servants say they're determined to win the right to form unions, rejecting fresh government efforts to compromise. As John Van Trieste reports, it's the latest chapter in a struggle over who gets to bargain and strike.
It's been almost 10 months since this fatal factory fire in southern Taiwan energized a labor movement. 4 firefighters were killed, and when it emerged that the factory violated safety rules, their colleagues were outraged. Firefighters demanded the right to form unions, something Taiwan doesn't allow for civil servants. The most they're allowed is a semi-union that can't do collective bargaining agreements or call strikes. And despite their protests, the government still says these unions are the way forward. On Thursday, the cabinet approved changes that make it easier for civil servants to form these special associations.
本次修法主要是为了提供公务人员结社权益、完善制度及保障，让公务人员协会充分发挥积极性的功能，促进公务部门劳动关系的和谐。
The government branch that deals with civil service exams has approved the changes too. It says letting first responders strike could be dangerous.
公务员其实担负公共任务跟这个公共安全的部分。如果说公务员罢工，其实会造成很大的不安。在历次我们也都表达，希望在协会法上面来加强公务同仁对他们的权益保障的需求。
But firefighters say the associations are still hard to form. A union takes just 30 people, but an association 150 to 300. And in any case, they say, the associations are toothless when it comes to labor disputes.
不支持，因为它成立门槛很高，然后争议的管道只有单一的管道，然后它也没有办法签订团体协约，完全没有回应到我们基层主工会的诉求。
And it isn't just firefighters. Police and court clerks have their own groups airing labor grievances and demanding unions. An umbrella group for them all, the Coalition of Taiwan Civil Service Reform Drivers, has joined the firefighters in rejecting these alternative associations.
他们还是不愿意面对，好好的来去研究，如果今天公务人员可以组织工会的话，应该要怎么样来进行？因为在我们的这个整个会议当中，铨叙部并没有对于公务员能不能组工会有详细的评估跟研究。
The rule changes are now before the legislature, but with both officials and civil servants dug in, there's little sign this labor dispute is on its way to a resolution. Klein Wang and John Van Trieste for Taiwan Plus.
Tainan City Police have made a breakthrough in identifying the gunman who shot dead local Fishermen's Association chair Lin Shijie on Monday.
的确是有在这个第二部车的这个里面的地方采集到这个找到这个口罩，从口罩上面采到相关的些微的基证 ，DNA 指纹其实我们目前都还在比对当中。
The suspect fled by car after shooting Lin multiple times outside his home on Monday morning. He swapped between 3 vehicles to make his escape. Police officers have expanded their search area and are working with the Coast Guard and airports in case he tries to leave the country. Spending on cancer screening and treatment will get a boost over the next 2 years. The cabinet has approved plans to allocate more than $120 million to screening services and treatment in 2025, with an increase to $240 million in 2026. Screening services will be made available to more people as part of a plan put forward by President Lai Ching-te. Cancer is the leading cause of death in Taiwan. The government wants to lower the mortality rate by 1/3. Joe Biden is showing no sign that he's willing to step aside, despite growing pressure from members of his own party and now even Hollywood heavyweight George Clooney. At a press conference marking the end of the NATO summit in Washington, the 81-year-old vowed to complete the job. But during his question time, he muddled yet another name. Ed Moon reports.
Wrapping up the 75th anniversary of NATO at a historic summit in Washington. But it's the age and mental acuity of the summit's host, US President Joe Biden, that has captured global attention. The 81-year-old leader, who's vying for a second term, made a sensitive error, misidentifying Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as Russian President Vladimir Putin.
And now I want to hand it over to the President of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. You can beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President,
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine was at the top of the summit agenda, with the 32-member military alliance pledging unwavering support for non-NATO member Ukraine. Biden had kicked off the three-day conference by announcing plans to supply new air defenses to Kyiv and a major $225 million military aid package. But now, as the summit ends, growing concerns about Biden's domestic challenges amid another blunder closer to home, mistaking Vice President Kamala Harris for his re-election rival, Donald Trump.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
NATO leaders were quick to defend Biden. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, each focusing on President Biden's commitment to international security partnerships.
J'ai pu aussi l'écouter échanger en marge des rendez-vous. J'ai vu comme à chaque fois un président qui est aux affaires, en charge, précis sur les dossiers, qu'il connaît bien.
Versprecher passieren und wenn man alle immer genug beobachtet, findet man auch genug.
But world leaders were careful not to comment on the upcoming US election in November. Trump has stated anti-NATO positions before and leads Biden in polling just months out from voting day. With Biden's future under increasing scrutiny, other alliance members can only watch and wait. James Lin, Joyce Zhang, and Ed Moon for Taiwan Plus.
Militaries from around the world are in the seas around Hawaii for the RIMPAC exercises. This year, a US plan to create a high-tech fighting force to counter China is highlighting the demands of modern warfare. From Hawaii, Jaime Okan has the story.
Every 2 years, dozens of countries send warships to the U.S. state of Hawaii for RIMPAC. It's the world's largest maritime exercise, lasting over 6 weeks. The goal is to practice working together against common threats, but the sheer size of these drills can be an obstacle.
So RIMPAC being 29 different countries participating in a single exercise, that is almost too large for any tangible progress on things like collective action plans. That kind of format is too large to really drill that sort of thing in a meaningful way.
That's why, in addition to working with allies and partners, countries like the U.S. are going forward with new ways to better prepare for a conflict. The U.S. says it wants to create a new kind of fighting force, and that plan is called Force Design 2030.
The purpose behind that initiative was essentially the U.S. had to transition away from the kinds of conflicts and the kinds of threats that it was engaged in at the time, meaning counterterrorism and how to move away from that, and tailoring it more toward the threats that we saw emerging in the Indo-Pacific.
Officials from the Pentagon say Force Design 2030 is designed to adapt to one threat in particular: China's military. For decades, Beijing has invested heavily in modernizing its armed forces and developing weapons that are able to strike U.S. bases within the first and the second island chain. These threats pose a challenge for the U.S., which has long been able to operate its military anywhere in the world with little resistance. Under Force Design 2030, the U.S. hopes a new military unit called the Marine Littoral Regiment can solve this problem.
We have some technology, such as small UAS and other sensors, that allows us to do reconnaissance in the maritime domain, which is one of the things that uniquely separates our battalion from other infantry battalions.
These Marines specialize in littoral combat zones, meaning on shorelines or between groups of islands, conditions common in the Western Pacific. The first Marine Littoral Regiment was set up in Hawaii in 2022. A year later, the second group was established in Okinawa. And now there are plans to set up a third group in the U.S. territory of Guam in the coming year. Equipped with advanced drones and anti-air missiles, these soldiers can respond quickly to any potential conflict.
The adversaries identified require a different type of thinking.
This means being very lean, agile, and able to move, therefore being able to survive. So the Marine Littoral Regiment, underneath Force Design 2030 concepts, is there to fight in the littoral areas.
In a world facing multiple wars on different continents, units like these could play a crucial role and, the U.S. says, deter any further conflicts. And here at RIMPAC, this is an opportunity for other countries to learn from the U.S.'s lead, where the emphasis is on quality over quantity of forces. Jaime Ocon in Honolulu, Hawaii for Taiwan Plus.
Germany is set to ban Chinese telecommunication companies Huawei and ZTE from its 5G network. Interior Minister Nancy Faeser said Germany will bar the use of their devices from 5G core networks by the end of 2026, while equipment used in other parts of the network must be replaced by the end of 2029. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz unveiled a new China strategy last year, in which relations with Beijing were described as a systematic rivalry. The remote coastal town of Sigu in Jiayi is famous for birdwatching during the winter months. In summer, though, it's another flying animal that captures locals' interest.
It's a very special day in the remote coastal town of Sigu in Jiayi, southern Taiwan, where a birthday party is being held for some local celebrities. In Taiwanese tradition, babies' 1-month birthdays are celebrated with dyed red cooked eggs. On this day, about 30 people have gathered under a 4-story high fan palm tree to celebrate these yellow bat babies. Unlike most bats which live in caves, the yellow bats here make their homes in fan palm and coconut trees. In fact, the locals here didn't even know these were bats for many years, thinking they were birds instead. But after a government campaign to raise awareness, people here have stopped using chemicals and planted more fan palm trees for the bats to roost in.
我们就开始跟长辈说啊，你不要用农药，因为它都会在这附近觅食。然后咱住的所在好，水源也好，这野生动物伊就会好，安尼咱的居住环境就会变最好的。
More than 4,000 bats now live in 9 trees around the town, easily outnumbering the town's human population of only 250. Every year, the yellow bats migrate to Taiwan in late spring to prepare for breeding. After giving birth in June, they fly to Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, the Philippines, and Indonesia.
现在领红蛋咯。
Residents have been celebrating the baby bats' 1-month birthdays for years.
拿好红蛋哦，好，1、2、3。
Sigu is one of the few communities in Taiwan that actively conserves its bats. The animals have long been misunderstood, researchers say.
那反而像新冠病毒，大家一开始把剑指蝙蝠，可是说真的，这么多年过后，真的没有在任何一只野外的蝙蝠身上发现过影响人类这么严重的新冠病毒。
And there are also other practical reasons to conserve the animals.
光一只蝙蝠，它可以吃3000多只的昆虫类，就是蛾啊、蚊子啊，等于是我们社区的清道夫。相对的，对社区来讲，它就是减少病虫害，然后也不会有登革热。
Locals have now developed a close bond with their friendly neighborhood bats.
伊是挂咱社区台湾的名，啊挂咱社区的名，飞出外国，给咱介绍咱社区，佮带这侪朋友回来呢。长辈他们就会觉得很骄傲哦，袂输伊嘛是咱的囝同款安尼。
蝙蝠如果不保育的话，它的数量会越来越少。蝙蝠减少，我会很伤心。
Experts say teaching young people about bats is key to changing human impressions of these animals, helping humans and bats live happily in harmony together. Luffy Lee, Peachy Zhuang, and Sanny Chi for Taiwan Plus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, check out this huge Stegosaurus skeleton up for auction in New York. It's the biggest ever reconstructed. I'm Reece. Take care, and we'll see you next time.